see mom and dad singing together instead of fighting together? You know, there's a joke around Calvin that, you know, every now and then Bruce and Tony disagree about something, and it's just like, oh, that's just mom and dad fighting, you know? And she just said to me on the way out, we know we're getting old when we all need our reading glasses. I am really, really tempted to scratch the message and to take the next 15 minutes to literally just meditate upon this. To maybe ask you a few questions or to guide you along in a meditation almost. But instead of that, I'm going to give you a homework assignment if you accept it. And that is to take this home. Spend a few minutes each day with this. If you want, go online and listen to this message or look at the slides from this message or maybe even one of these songs as you do it. Or maybe light a candle. But do it in the darkness so that this really stands out and pops. Darkness is not necessarily the enemy. Everything in God's creation needs rest, needs Sabbath. And quite frankly, it's in the darkness that we heal. It's when we rest that we heal, that we grow. And so embrace the darkness and look at this and what else can you see in here? And what kind of symbolism, what kind of metaphors can you see in here for am I enlightened? Am I enlightening? Have I been enlightened? And no, not in the old century way, but in the way of am I the light? How can I share the light? Has the light been shared with me? And how can I reflect that light? So spend a couple minutes each day this week doing that. I think this is profound and true because we just got done with Advent and Christmas. And who here wants to take a deep breath and relax? I think we all need to. Because if we don't, it goes by so quick that we don't gain anything from it. We don't grow from it. We sort of just go through the motions. All right, so you got the assignment? Thank you. A colleague and a friend of mine attended elementary school with descendants of Garrett Morgan, an inventor that's often called the Black Edison. She tells a story of one of his greatest inventions, the three-way traffic light. Do you see it there? And it wasn't until this morning that I looked a little bit closer. I thought this was some doodling on the side. Do you guys see that thing on the side there? Does anyone have an idea of what it is next to the stoplight? Figure 2. The first service got it. A breathing apparatus. Those are the first sketches to the first patent for an oxygen mask in history that we know of, right? So that is Garrett Morgan, a great inventor. And we're going to focus on the traffic light there for a little bit because my friend tells the story about how it came to be. It came to be because Garrett witnessed a horrific car accident in Cleveland, that mistake by the lake. I didn't say that the first service, Ted. I said that just the second service for you because I love you. If you know, you know. Anyways, Cleveland in the early 1920s. As the first African American in that town to own a car, he saw firsthand the chaos in the streets due to absolutely zero traffic regulation. And so he responded. He responded to this tragedy. He invented a new way to control local traffic, something that would save countless lives and change the way that cities operated. Garrett Morgan didn't simply observe a problem. He responded. And in doing so, he changed the course of history. In a similar way, John's prologue calls us to respond to the light of the world in a world that's shadowed by darkness, confusion, and division. It's in that world that we are invited not to just look at the light from a distance, but to get up close and personal and intimate with the light, to share it, to reflect it, to follow it, and to be transformed by it. In John's gospel, we hear about a light that enlightens everyone. That's verse 9. This isn't just an abstract idea or a theological concept. It is a living, breathing presence among us. It is the Word that became flesh and dwelt and lived and moved in with us. Jesus is the light. He didn't come to be observed from afar. He came to live with us, to experience our struggles, and to illuminate the path to God's love. But the light isn't just for us to see. It's for us to respond to. The light of Christ is not something we merely admire from a distance. It is meant to transform us, not just change us by putting on different attire, but to transform us from the inside out. Just as Garrett Morgan could have ignored the need for traffic control, but he chose to act, we are invited not to just see the light, but to allow it to transform our lives. And actually, I'm going to take one moment of privilege here. Cohen, do you see that? Yeah. Cohen drew a picture of me a couple of years ago, hand sketched. Just like you can tell that's me because of my posture. Do you see that on the side there? The picture's the same way. When I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's like Cohen drew that. That, my friend, is a light that hangs in my office, on my door, that I see every day, and it grounds me, and it centers me, and it empowers me to be the light. But this is the challenge of faith, isn't it? It's not enough to see the light. We must allow it to illumine our hearts and our lives, exposing the darkness, the hurt, the pain, the tragedy within us. Because without those being exposed, we can't transform. We can't share that light as well. We can't reflect that light as well. Cohen's drawing of me might be the next bulletin cover because it's that good, if she gives me permission. In the Magi, or the wise men, we find another powerful example of responding to the light. They saw a star, a sign of Christ's birth. And they don't stop and say, that's interesting. No, they follow it. They take action. They travel from a distant land, risking their lives, making sacrifices, and journeying a great distance, not to find a king and a mighty throne, but a babe in a manger. And when they arrive, they don't just look at the babe, they worship him. And they present their gifts of their lives to him. Many scholars believe when they fled to Egypt, these gifts are what enabled them to live there for 2 years? In a foreign land with nothing? These gifts provided life for them, safety for them. The Magi's response to light was active and transformative. Their journey wasn't simply about reaching a destination. It was about becoming different through their encounter with Christ. They weren't passive observers. They were active participants in divine revelation. Revelation, the book of which Stephen will be talking about and did talk about this morning in adult education for the next couple of months. In between services right over here. I'm pretty sure that his digesting and revealing of the book of Revelation will reveal the light of Christ that shines in the darkness, and the darkness will never overcome it. Following the light isn't always easy, and it often comes with a cost. For the Magi, it was a long, uncertain journey. For us, following Christ means going against the grain of the world, where darkness often seems to reign. We see in this passage that the powers of the world presented by King Herod resist the light, try to extinguish it. And in our world today, the light of Christ is still resisted by forces that prefer darkness and oppression and division. But the light of Christ keeps shining. And we are called to follow it, like the Magi, wherever it leads. Our faith is more than passive reflection. It is a call to action. Christ, the light of the world, did not stay in the heavens and then entered the darkness to not lead us. He entered the darkness to lead us out. He came not to inform us, not as much to inform us. And don't get me wrong, information is important. See that little squiggly line? That for me is an approximate sign. So it's not as much to inform us as it is, the check mark, to transform us. It's not as much so that we can admire him. It is so much so that we can shine like him, so that we can reflect his light in this hurting world. It's not as much that this is about a divine fact as the light of the world is about a tool for action. But this is difficult. In a world filled with division, greed, and injustice, responding to the light often requires us embracing uncomfortable truths. You know, and I know, that this is where I need help. I can be a little bit of a bull in a china shop. I need your help because it means standing up for what is right. Even when, especially when, imperatively when it's unpopular, when it goes against the grain. As Tim Kaine once said, most evil in the world is not caused by evil people, but by the complicity of bystanders. I searched and tried. I really wanted to get a quote from Jimmy Carter. That is not a political statement. That is because I believe outside of office, he shined bright. He lived the life. He allowed it to transform him. A peanut farmer to the highest office, who then does more, if not as much, if not more, outside of office, hammering nails in wood for Habitat for Humanity. He was and is Habitat for Humanity. He forever shall be Habitat for Humanity. That will forever be a light that shines in the darkness of homelessness. See, the light of Christ shows a new vision for the world, a vision of love and justice and peace. It's a world where the oppressed are freed, where the hungry are fed, and where the broken are healed. But this vision doesn't simply happen. It needs us. We must participate. We must reflect that light. We testify to the possibility of a new world when we live as though God's kingdom is already breaking in. And we challenge the systems of oppression when we share what we have with those who need it the most, and when we speak up for justice and refuse to stay silent in the face of evil. The light of Christ is a call to build a new world, a world where God's love and justice reign. Friends, like Garrett Morgan, we are called to respond to the needs we see around us. Like the Magi, we are called to follow the light wherever it leads. And like Christ, we are called to let that light shine through us, reflect upon us, and into the world. Amen? Amen.